Hello, so today we're going to be making some meatless enchiladas using black beans and sweet potatoes. So the first thing we want to do is preheat the oven to 400 degrees. The next thing we want to do is start boiling some water. And then we're going to start destemming and taking out the seeds of these dry chili peppers. We have 4 guajillo peppers, 2 ancho peppers, and 1 arbol pepper. So the next thing we want to do, once we have all the chilies prepped, we're going to put them in a bowl, and we're going to cover them with some hot water. Really, really hot. You want them to be covered completely so they can soak. Then we're going to cover it with a plate. And my bowl happens to have a little spout right here, so I'm just going to cover that hole up with a napkin and set it aside. And we're going to leave those to soak for 20 minutes. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up half a cup of a yellow onion, 3/4 of a cup of red pepper, red bell pepper, and 1 medium jalapeno. And I actually already chopped it up, so then I'm just going to set it aside and put it in a bowl. Once I have done that, you're going to take 2 tablespoons of olive oil and put it into a skillet. And we're going to turn the heat on to about medium temperature. Once the oil has heated up, you're going to saute the onions, the red peppers, and the jalapenos, and let them to the point where they start to soften. Probably about like 5 minutes or so, maybe a little less. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dice the yams, and we want to get them pretty small, about that big. And we're going to end up dicing about a cup, so maybe about half of the yam. And then we're going to open a can of black beans, and we're going to rinse them. We're only using 3/4 of a cup of black beans. So once the red pepper, the onion, and the jalapeno have softened, we're going to add the yams to the skillet. We're also going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of cumin. Lastly, we're going to add 1/4 cup of water to help soften the yams. Once that's all mixed in there pretty well, we're going to cover this for about 10 minutes or until the yams soften. While we wait for the potatoes to soften and for the peppers to also soften, we're going to prep the blender for the sauce. So what we're going to use is we're going to do 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. We're going to do 1/8 of a tablet of abuelita chocolate. It looks like this, and when you open it, it's already, I'll show you. It's already cut up into pieces, so you're just going to take 1 little piece, 1/8 of a tablet. And we're going to add half of a cup of fresh water, and then 1 teaspoon of salt. Using a spoon, we're going to take out all the chilies from the bowl after they're done soaking for 20 minutes. We're going to put them into the blender along with 1 cup of the chili water. We're then going to blend it. If at that point, after it's been blended very thoroughly, about 3 minutes, it's still too thick, feel free to add more of the chili water using 1/4 cup at a time. Once the sauce has been blended, we're going to place it into a pot in order for us to prep the tortillas with. It's going to be much easier in a pot. We're also going to add the beans to our skillet of yams and onions and red peppers. Lastly, we're going to place the tortillas that we're going to use, some whole grain tortillas, into our pan that we're going to cook these in the oven. We're going to place them in there for about 1 minute to 2 minutes just to warm up, and that way they're easier to roll. When the tortillas are done in the oven, we're going to place them on a plate, and we're also going to pour some of the sauce to the pan that we're going to be cooking these in. Just a little bit, just enough to shake it around and coat the bottom of the pan. Like so. And just move it around. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a tortilla and we're going to dip it into the pot with the sauce, just to get a little bit of coating in it. And then we're going to take the tortilla and we're going to put some of the yams into the middle. And then lastly, we're just going to roll the tortilla. I'll show you in a second what that's going to look like. We're going to roll and move it to the side, like so. So go ahead and do that for your next tortillas. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to top it with a cup of mozzarella cheese, and then we're going to cover it with a piece of foil. Not super tight because you don't want the cheese to stick to the foil. Once that's all done, you're going to stick it in the oven for approximately 15 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes, depending. I'd start at 10 and then move up from there. And that is how you make meatless enchiladas. So feel free to top it with Greek yogurt, maybe some avocados and some tomatoes, anything to freshen up a little bit, some cilantro maybe. So yeah, that is meatless enchiladas.